Hi guys, this is GSMDome and I'm here with a review of the Realme 7T. After having tested the Realme GT7, this is the GT70, a sort of light version of that phone, which stands out through this racing stripe at the backside and the leather imitation yellow back. Now, there are some aspects which are shared between the two, the most shocking of which has got to be the gigantic battery. So we're dealing with a huge battery here, which has a capacity of 7000 mAh, but the processor has been changed a bit. It's a MediaTek Dimensity 8400 instead of the Note 9000 series of the other model. Some changes for the back camera as well. One of them has disappeared, and as well as that, we still have the cool AI features though, and the screen somehow is larger than on the other model, the Realme GT7. Once again, this is the GT70. We've already tested the GT7 Pro, so let's see what this phone offers at around 500 euros. Okay, so first things first, let's get this out of the way. The phone measures 8.8 millimeters in thickness and weighs 205 grams, which is decent for its diagonal size of 6.8 inches. The backside is covered with a leather imitation. It's available in yellow. It reminds me of the Transformer robot Bumblebee. Now the screen to body ratio is pretty generous, 91% here, which is it's a very immersive device, and the only thing that stands out is the camera module at the backside, which reminds me of a Xiaomi handset for some reason. We have ArmorShell protection for the screen, and ArmorShell protection is more about a reinforced structure, which also creates internally an airbag structure, so the components are more resilient. There's also IP69 certification, so you can take hot water jets, water in general, and dust. Now the screen you're seeing here is once again bigger than the GT7 one. 6.8 inch AMOLED Full HD Plus, 1 billion colors to show, HDR Plus, Dolby Vision, huge amount of things, up to 6000 nits of brightness, and of course a pretty immersive experience on account of the narrow bezels. I was happy with the screen on both the GT7 and GT7 Pro, and the 7T also makes no exception. We got a wide array of colors, wide view angles, deep blacks and also pure whites, and behavior is perfect in the full sunlight of the summer, so zero objection when it comes to the contrast. We did a measurement here with a lux meter, and this is what came out. The GT70 has 1596 lux. It even surpasses flagships like Xperia 1 Mark 6 and Galaxy Z Fold 6, but it's below the GT7 Pro, which had 2400 lux. There are special settings for the screen like eye comfort, refresh rate can be set up, there's a bedtime mode, and so forth. Now if you want to go inside the phone, you can either install the IDA app or actually go here to the About Device section, where you can find the processor, the MediaTek Dimensity 8400 Max. Now it's an octa-core CPU, 4 nanometer, and it's supposed to be superior to the predecessor Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 3, by the way. We also have 12 gigs of RAM plus an extra 12 taken from the internal storage, and the internal storage should be 512 gigabytes. As far as I know, no micro SD available here. Now, as far as performance goes, let's have a gander. We even did the CPU throttling test, which is available here. Shows us 77%. We lost 23% performance. I would say it's decent nowadays. Even flagships lose more than 30%, but as you can see, it's only top 100 and there are 86 other phones doing better than it. It's the equal of the Honor 200 Pro, and the Xiaomi 14T Pro is slightly better. A few other handsets are available here, like the Honor 400 is doing better, and the Galaxy A55 as well. Now, aside from the throttling, the scores are actually quite good for a 500 euro phone. For example, in Antutu 10, we have 1.7 million points, better than Galaxy S24 Plus, 106 Pro. The thing is that this mid-range phone can beat last year flagships. That's the core of the whole experience. So if you're going to Geekbench 6 in the multi-core subtest, this is a pretty decent score, 6595 over Honor 400 Pro, Galaxy Z Flip 6 and Z Fold 6, which are hardcore phones. And in gaming, we're above Motorola H60 Pro, iPhone 16e and Pixel 9a, which are pretty decent in their own way. Once again, here in the 3D mark, beating those handsets, and here as well, beating the Xiaomi 14T Pro, which was a fall, let's say fall flagship. If you're wondering about the temperature, I did say play some games on this phone, didn't encounter any overheating, which is confirmed here. Only 37.1 degrees Celsius in benchmarks, while games 34.2. It's one of the cooler phones out there, and as usual, Realme probably integrated here some sort of a special ice sense design with graphene. Now, as far as the battery is concerned, as I showed you before here, it's a silicon carbon unit, a huge 7000 mAh unit, which is shocking to see on such a slim phone. It should also have pretty fast charging. By the way, the predecessor had 5500 mAh, and if you thought that was big, wait till you see this. Okay, and as I said before, fast charging is part of the package. From what I remember, should be around 80 watts, or actually 120 watts, which is still pretty amazing for this phone. When it comes to the battery life, excellent, 29 hours and 40 minutes of continuous HD video playback, beating flagships like OnePlus 13, Oppo Find X8 Ultra, Galaxy S24, so it's fine, top 20 material for sure, nothing to complain about, even though some Realme phones even go above it. You can see here the Realme 14 Pro is one example, GT7 and 7 Pro with a few hours. Continuous usage, 21 hours and 32 minutes, also excellent, fourth place, only behind huge battery phones or gaming phones, or basically we're only beaten by 3 phones out there, including the GT7 by a very small margin, but we're beating Galaxy S25 Ultra, all the iPhones ever, and so much more. Full charge requires 1 hour and 7 minutes, expected a bit faster here, but it's still okay, and after 30 minutes you're at 57%. Settings include the GT mode for higher performance, battery health, and limitation of the charge 80%, which you already know. As far as the acoustics go, this is the bottom speaker, and here we should have the earpiece complemented by 2 other holes at the top. We don't have an audio jack, by the way. We only have some minor tuning available in the settings. Okay, so let's talk about the acoustics now after playing a typical audio sample we use for that purpose. I would say it's a bass-heavy experience which relies quite a bit on the bottom speaker. The high notes are also decent, the treble is decent, but once again the bass is doing the heavy lifting. The volume is what I would call medium. It's not the strongest in the world, but also not exactly low. Let's see how we're doing here in the decibel meter test. So 78.5 decibels at the top and 85.3 decibels at the bottom. There's a difference between the two, so not a real stereophony. And here you can see which model we surpassed. So with this one here, let's see, 294 spot. We're in the company of older phones, including Vivo X80 Lite, Realme 12 Pro Plus, Galaxy A8, which is quite old, but we beat Galaxy S24 Fan Edition, Honor Magic 5 Lite, and so forth. There are phones doing better, reaching 89, like Motorola H60 Pro, and Honor Magic 6 and 7 Lite. In games, things were slightly better, with 96.7 decibels achieved here. And once again, this is not exactly a record we have come to expect to reach on this phone or on phones like this, something like 100. Anyway, with this value we surpassed the iPhone 16 Pro Max, which is not bad, and nothing a phone 3A Pro, as well as Moto G54 and Special Power Edition. At the end of the day, not bad, but also not a record breaker. At least there are some tweaks you can apply from the settings. Camera wise, this camera cut in the screen is a selfie shooter. Let's see what we have here. So 32 megapixel with a Sony IMX sensor, which is not bad. 4K filming up to 60 frames per second, as far as I remember, while the backside is very similar to the one of the other model, minus there's no telephoto here. I should also probably mention that we have a main 50 megapixel camera here, Sony IMX 896, and the secondary is an ultra-wide 8 megapixel shooter. There should also be a special color sensor from what I remember. The modes are generous. We have quite a few of them here, and when I say modes, I mean these ones. We also have an underwater capture mode, which is for 4K video. We have tilt shift mode, we have a portrait mode. The photo mode includes crisp and vibrant as color profiles. You can shoot up to 4K 60 frames per second, and a special ultra steady option for stabilization, and AI landscape also takes care of some of your landscape shots. And now let's see some of the samples we did. So here we are with some of the shots I have taken with this handset, and I have to say that, believe it or not, there was less oversaturation and overexposure here compared to the Realme GT7. However, the weather may also have been just a bit cloudier, as you can see the skies here for yourself. Now, considering there is no telephoto camera, don't expect any solid results with a zoom that goes past 2x. I mean, even 2 or 3x looks fine for digital zoom, but once again, don't expect more than that. So let's talk about selfies as well. These are some of the selfies I've taken. I would say they're just as good as any flagship out there, which is something I also encounter on other mid-range handsets from Realme. So yeah, apparently that's a trend. And the fact we have a Sony sensor at the front says something instead of OmniVision or even Samsung. So selfies are just fine. Well, give or take the details of the background. So bokehs will definitely make you happy, especially if you also apply filters and things like that. They're very crisp. They're also very hungry for light. So clarity and details will be excellent here. And by the way, when you're working with 32 megapixels, there's a lot of details to catch. The colors are fine for the back camera. When I say fine, I mean calibrated toward, I would say, darker colors, and they're not very oversaturated or over sharpened or things like that. They're pretty realistic and well kept in check. This camera behaves somewhere around Google Pixel 9a, iPhone 16e. That's the area it's at, which is not a bad area to be. You can also compete on equal terms with the Motorola H60 series phones. What else? Maybe Galaxy A56, that's where it's at. Perhaps with a darker tint to the images. That's what we're getting here. And believe it or not, even the ultra-wide camera delivers and doesn't lose that many details. So yeah, there's that. Even though we're working with 8 megapixels, you will not feel any problem with that. Forgot about the close-ups, by the way. They're quite good, maybe not as good as the other phone and other Realmes, but you can catch something decent with them. Not macros, but yeah, you can catch decent captures at a close distance. These have been the daytime shots. Let's talk about the low light shots. Okay, so we're switching it up here, going to another day, and I have to say I am moderately impressed compared to my expectations. For 500 euros, 600 euros, you're also getting quite good clarity. There's no ghosting or halo or moving effects for the moving cars. The images are a bit darker. It appears that darkness is a theme here, dark during the day and dark during the night, but it's the darkness typical for a nighttime scenario. It doesn't exaggerate with the night mode. Let's go further here. In lighter areas, things are also pretty clear and the lights are not overblown, which is probably the most shocking part. So the size of the light sources is quite decent. Now, the colors may appear a bit more strident than they did during the day, so much so that it's probably the fact that they highlighted at night better to be perceived in a better fashion. I, for one, am pretty impressed by this phone. I would say the difference between it and the other GT7 phones is minimal when it comes to the photos. Of course, you're lacking some zoom and perhaps some of the vibrant and vivid colors of the other cameras. Now, let's talk about the videos. So we should have them organized better here. First things first, I'm shocked to see that we have 4K capturing 60 frames per second for the selfie camera, which for a mid-ranger it's quite something. And this brings a lot of detail and clarity to it. It's also very good for capturing vlogging. This is the kind of vlogging you would do for long format YouTube, not YouTube Shorts, not TikTok, not Facebook, not Reels. So it's a bit overkill maybe, 4K 60, but hey, at least we're getting something. We're not losing something. When it comes to the colors, this is what we captured. Once again, darker colors than usual. That's my sensation. I prefer more accurate and darker colors to the overblown and exaggeratedly vivid ones. Okay, and here we should have the focus test, which is spot on. It was actually raining here, and in spite of that it behaved like a champ. Some panning here and a bit of zoom. Decent up to 3x or so. Losing some details after 3x. And we also should have some stabilization tests here and there. This one. Just like the GT7, excellent stabilization when walking around, even without that special mode. Ultra steady in Full HD 60 frames per second has brighter images and a bit of flicker here and there and some refocus. So maybe don't activate the special stabilization mode, you know what I mean? If it's still decent without it. Okay, when it comes to the low light capture, we have this. Now, in the darker areas, things are really dark. There are some reflections here and there. There's a lot of noise and shakiness. So yeah, also the zoom doesn't help that much. So there's this. Street light sources are a bit expanded, as you can see in the car headlights. It shows its true mid-range phase here. And things are slightly bluish. There's a blue tint to things. So definitely don't go ahead making content at night unless you really have to. That's a recommendation when it comes to the, well, video capture. When it comes to connectivity, the phone has, well, everything, including an infrared emitter here at the top. There's 5G connectivity, there's Bluetooth 6.0, there's an USB-C port at the bottom, 2.0 most likely, GPS, GLONASS, BDS, Galileo, Navic, and I think we cover everything plus NFC. There should also be 360-degree NFC, knowing Realme like I do. We did a bunch of tests here and okay, don't want to do any of this. These are the results we achieved. So when it comes to 5G, this is what we achieved. As you can see here, not very impressive results, but it also wasn't, there may have been some work in progress for this phone, so we couldn't achieve higher speeds. Basically, we achieved 166 megapixels in downloads and up to 114 megapixels in uploads. That's on 5G. On Wi-Fi, you can easily go even past 500 megapixels, no problem. Okay, now moving on to the software, what we're getting here is Android 15, and you can have it here with Realme UI 6 on top. There should also be a few years of updates. As far as I remember, there should be 4 years of Android updates, 6 years of total updates. Now we have a lot of AI, so let's take it one at a time. There is the AI photo, so you can also see it here. You can turn yourself with the AI Studio from a selfie into a sort of special photo. You can also generate these sorts of photos with the special AI Studio options, changing backgrounds, making yourself Harry Potter and things like that. So the colleague who took these shots turned himself into Harry Potter with this AI. But aside from that, there's also the Google-based typical editing. So for example, this one here, I press edit and I have the AI editor. I also have pixelate, retouch, and stickers. Go to the AI editor. You have AI eraser for objects and people, ultra clarity, unblur, remove reflections, anti-glare, and AI landscape. AI eraser can also automatically detect people and remove them, and that's only one of the features. Now, aside from that, we have a sidebar here. There's also a file doc, screenshots, voice translate. Where in your browser, we have extra options. It can do a summary or read text to you, while when you're in a video application, it can do air scrolling with your hand, and well, things like that. You can also have multiple AI features. We have that special window on the side where you can drag content to share between applications, so we should find those here. For security's sake, by the way, we have the fingerprint scanner in the screen. It's of the optical variety and it's quite fast and accurate when unlocking the phone. Now the special features, let's see. So connection is here. Okay, wallpapers and style can obviously be customized with a lot of things, icons, colors, fingerprint animation, and so forth. Home screen and lock screen, again, customization, display and brightness, notification and quick settings, apps, accessibility and convenience. This is the AI Smart Loop I was mentioning before. You can have it here on the side, and you can drag content to it. These are the applications it works with. You can have Google, VLC, for example, TikTok, what have you. So just drag them there and you see what happens. There's also the AI planner. Basically, you double tap the back of the phone to activate this and it will read the screen and extract information from it. Right now it has nothing to extract from, but usually if it's a PDF with a launch schedule, an event schedule, hours and times, it will definitely try to add them to the calendar. We also have a smart sidebar here. You can swipe in from this part here, triggering a variety of useful feature. The screen recognition, there's live alerts, one hand mode, gloves mode, a ton of things happening here. I mentioned before that you can do special AI edits with an AI Studio application. This is the application in question. You can turn yourself and your friends into a variety of characters, change the backgrounds. Also, you can reimagine scenarios. And of course, you can turn an image into a moving image. Not like Honor does it, but still in a pretty nice fashion. You're going to have to spend credits here, but you're getting credits every day you log in. And of course, aside from that, you have Google Gemini available here with Gemini Live, where you can share your screen and you can also share your camera. Of course, you can also do the whole circle to search if you want to, by also recognizing what's on the screen. And aside from that, you can recognize songs and translate stuff. You have the Zen space here and you have the phone manager here for your resources. This one which cleans up your resources. Checks it out for viruses. There's payment protection. And aside from that, once you're in a game, you also have a special menu on the side, which is triggered, signaled by the GT Boost. And you have here the options. We have the I would say, special modes here: refresh rate, performance settings, game focus, notifications, AI gaming coach. Apparently you can be coached in PUBG and a few games. Bypass charging, it bypasses the battery and charges the phone straightforward. AI motion control, consecutive skills, useful for MOBA, screen recording, touch optimization. So a lot of features for gaming. I think we've covered enough of the software, and it's time for the verdict. So realme GT7T, perhaps even more appealing than the GT7. It has a good looking design, a huge battery with pretty fast charge, and a very bright screen, which is very crisp and shows 1 billion colors and HDR Dolby Vision. The camera has quite a few options and actually surprised me at night and day with its color calibration, decent stabilization. The selfies are very detailed at 32 megapixel, and AI planner can be useful if you're really planning on doing stuff with your calendar and if you're a workaholic. Plus, AI Studio could be fine for some people. The price is excellent. Even at its debut, expected to drop. Those are the pros. On the cons, the video playback time, I expected it to be even higher for 7000 mAh. The stereo speakers didn't exactly blow me away compared to expectations. We only have 4 years of Android updates compared to 7 on the Galaxy A56. The camera is a bit mid-range, particularly in the video and particularly in the nighttime capture. I would say that the zoom is lacking because you don't have a telephoto camera, and in some parts of the world, including mine, including in Romania, you cannot find it in stores. At least you couldn't find it officially and initially. Now it has appeared. Okay, so realme GT7T, appealing through the battery, the power of the processor, which is good enough for gaming and has graphene cooling, and a camera which delivers if you have mid-range expectations. That's it from GSMDome.com. Goodbye.